So anyway, I'll go ahead and leave you.
The Shreveport, well, actually, it's the Spar Planetarium.
That's right.
And Mark, welcome to Ark-La-Tex Today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's talk somewhat about the planetarium, the history of it, how long it's been around, and this type of thing.
Well, the planetarium was opened in 1964. It's a bond issue the citizens voted for. And it's a really relatively small planetarium, but it still works quite well for being 20 years old. And located on the fairgrounds, and we're running shows now for school groups, field trips, and soon we plan on opening it up for the public again on weekends.
Now, next Wednesday, we're going to have a partial eclipse of the sun. Am I correct on that?
That's basically correct. Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about that somewhat and how you're going to be involved with this.
Okay. Well, at the planetarium, we're going to open our doors at 9 a.m. and have a short discussion on safety involving the eclipse. One thing about solar eclipses and really anything to do with the sun is that it's very, very dangerous to look directly at the sun. There are filters out that can protect your eyes, but if someone does not know exactly what they're doing, that can be very, very dangerous. At the planetarium, we're going to have telescopes set up and very safe methods of viewing the eclipse, something that really people should see because it does not happen that often. Next one will happen at the turn of the century. So we've got at least well over 10 years before we'll see anything like that in Louisiana, unless you have enough money to take a jet plane trip out to Africa or some other part of the world. They're fairly common as far as the Earth is concerned, but in any particular spot, they're fairly rare.
Something I want to mention, you was talking about, we want to certainly talk about the safety factors. And you have a little notation here that said just a few reminders about the dangers. 145 cases of eye injuries in the U.S. were reported after the March 1970 eclipse. 125 of these were eclipse burns, and 60% of these looked directly at the sun. Now, before we get into the times and this type of thing, you brought a little, what is that, a shoebox?
Well, it's a shoebox. Doesn't look like that much. Everyone has one in their house, and believe it or not, in astronomy, sometimes you can study the stars and study the planets with something very, very simple. Sometimes you'd use a pair of binoculars. In this case, with the sun, it's so bright we can actually use a shoebox to view the sun with. The way it's constructed is extremely simple, really. Take an ordinary shoebox, a piece of white paper or something is taped on the inside of it, and we project the sun's image through a small hole in the front of the shoebox. A very small pinhole, literally a pinhole. The sun's light will actually travel through that pinhole, hit the back side of this paper, and you can actually see the image of the sun. Now, the reason we have it in a shoebox is so you can look through this end, and it's very dark in here except for the sun's light going through. And in fact, if there happens to be a fairly cloudy day, partly cloudy day, you'll actually be able to see the clouds passing by the sun. It works very, very well. And the main thing, it's very, very safe also.
Now, another way of doing this would, of course, on Wednesday, May the 30th, they can go out to the Louisiana State Fairgrounds, to your planetarium, and as you said, you're going to have the discussions and some safety factors, and you'll be telling the folks all about that.
That's right.
What all do you have set up out there for viewing?
Oh, well, let's see, we'll just have several telescopes. One telescope will have solar filter on it and a television camera hooked up to it. We'll actually have a closed-circuit television set of the eclipse in progress, and that's a very safe way. In fact, you can actually see detail on the solar surface that way by using the telescope. We'll be giving away, hopefully, this type of solar viewer to people. We're trying to get a lot of boxes together and construct some of these so people can use them on their own. It's always nice to have people participating in something instead of just looking at something.
Now, this is completely free, and everyone is invited to attend. Let me give the times here. 9:45 a.m. The eclipse begins. I think you'll be open at what, about 9 o'clock?
We're open at 9 o'clock to give that short discussion on safety, and I'll describe a little bit about the mechanics of the eclipse. Now, at that time in the morning, the eclipse, when it starts, you won't notice it. It'll slowly come on. The best time to view it will be between 10:30 and a little bit after 11 o'clock. That's when about 86% of the sun will be covered up by the moon. Which is, of course, a large portion of the sun. It should be noticeably dimmer during that time. You won't have to turn on your headlights on your car or anything, but it will be noticeably dimmer, sort of like a very, very overcast day.
Mark, we only have a few seconds here, so let me be sure to tell the folks that the partial eclipse of the sun will take place Wednesday, May 30th. And if they go out to the Spar Planetarium out at the Louisiana State Fairgrounds, they can get a first-hand look at it, I suppose, or first-eye look at it. Be very careful. Again, you can burn your eyes if you don't take the proper precautions. I want to give you a phone number you can call for more information about this, 635-1842. My guest this morning on Ark-La-Tex Today has been Mr. Mark Trotter. He's director with the Spar Planetarium, Shreveport's spaceport, I think you call it. Ark-La-Tex Today will continue right after this time.